All right, let's talk about World War Z.
How did it do this weekend? I haven't checked the grosses. It came in second?
I think it's number 2. It's done much. It's like supposedly like the best opening for a non-franchise movie. Like not, it's like, so it's done very well.
And the best opening for Brad Pitt, personally.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting, though? He's been in so many good movies, but none of them are like, he has the George Clooney disease. He's a movie star, but he's not a blockbuster star.
Isn't his last big hit Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Maybe that was the last really big.
Yeah, that's the second.
Oh, the Jennifer Aniston Dear John letter. Yeah, okay. I love that movie. It's a cinematic Dear John letter.
Well, World War Z really actually exceeded expectations because they're expecting it to open at $50 million. It opened at $66. And so, bless him. I mean, he needed it because a lot was riding on this, and I'm sure it's doing well internationally. So
no, it is doing well internationally. It's a really good movie, and I don't, I read the book. I was thinking about this like 7 years ago, but I don't care. It's not faithful to the book. I mean, there's no way it could be.
Yeah, that's what you made it clear. Yeah, I mean, I learned about the book that not having any real main characters. So
yeah, it's like an oral history of this like zombie thing, zombie plague or whatever. And there's no way you could do that. You can maybe, if you wanted to do the book, then the best way to do that was like an HBO series or in television format.
It sounds like if it had been done like as a faux documentary or something like that, it might have.
Yeah, I mean, so I thought it was incredibly well done. I think the idea is terrifying enough. I'd be really curious. I want to see though the stuff they cut though. I hope we'll be able to see that one day.
Man, I mean, it's too grandiose not to include it in the Blu-ray release because we're talking about at least a half hour of reshot footage, and that represents tens of millions of dollars. It needs to be seen. I mean, get it out there. What's the harm?
I know. Yeah, no, I would love to see that.
I mean, why was it originally reshot anyway? I mean, what was the problem?
I think it
didn't work. They said it didn't work, and they showed it. I was reading about this earlier. It supposedly did not work. When you sit down and watch it, it doesn't work.
Okay. What did they?
But I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
Or whatever.
No, that was the studio actually.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why it didn't work. Because in the midsection of the film, before you get to the last third, the conclusion of the movie that they reshot, you have two back-to-back action sequences that are as tense and exciting as any you're likely to see this year. And so then their original ending was this big, epic, another battle in Russia, I believe. And I think it was just too much. And you could tell with how they reshot the ending that they really pared it down.
They did,
The ending action sequence is kind of its most intimate. And what it reminded me of was the ending of Jurassic Park. When they're
that's a good point. That's a great analogy.
Tiptoeing around and trying not to disturb the dinosaurs, and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
it
works.
Good point.
And it does, it does give you kind of a chance to catch your breath, and it builds. It builds this momentum, that conclusion. The movie itself, for me, I think there are some genuine faults of the movie, and then there are some faults that people are going to lay on it that aren't quite fair. Like, it's not like the book, or it's not bloody enough, or blah, blah, blah. But
all those I could throw out the window. I could throw all those complaints out the window.
Yeah, but the movie as a movie, you got to ask, does it work? And for me, the movie is an exercise in propulsive filmmaking. I mean, you have 5 minutes of setup before this movie starts taking off. This is pretty much the most breathlessly paced action movie I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Jamie. I couldn't agree more with you. You thought it was at least 5 minutes? I thought maybe 3 minutes. 3 minutes right there going. But I like the opening credits. I thought were a great way to, Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead was a great way of setting up the whole movie. I really thought if you had to pay attention to the opening credits, because I thought that was a very smart credit sequence.
Yeah, I do too. But then again, it didn't necessarily labor on how did we get here. It wasn't necessarily a process movie like a Contagion is or something like that. It's more like
true.
We got to find a solution, and we're not going to. It's not overly political. It's not really
thank
political
God.
at
I mean,
all.
No one wants a political zombie movie.
It should be coming though. Somebody should work on that. That would be interesting.
Well, Romero made a career out of it.
Contagion, though, it's interesting because someone said it was like Contagion with zombies. I don't feel that way. I think the more what I like about Contagion is I can go back and find something new in it every time. I love Contagion.
I love Contagion too, but I made that comment that it's like Contagion with zombies, just based on a superficial comparison. That
right. You were the one. Okay.
It's a globe-spanning movie about an epidemic that they're trying to solve. Superficially, it is structured like a Contagion.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that, but I think you. It gives you pause. You think, though. I mean, how, and the Mist does this to a lesser extent too. Just how we devolved so quickly, Law and Order and everything. I think that scene in the supermarket, and then the scene with the cop.
Yeah.
And he just wants to get stuff too. I mean, I thought that it's those kind of scenes though in World War Z that really I thought like struck a chord though.
But here are the complaints about one of the major complaints about the movie that possibly can open it up to a different kind of conversation. When you're spending $225 million or however much they spend on it, you have to make compromises. You would think the more money you spend, the more freedom it will give you, but that's not necessarily the case because the studio has such an incredible investment in this film. They cannot afford to exclude any possible audiences from this movie. So it's not going to be bloody. It's not going to be political. For me, I looked at it as a positive and as an example of what Hollywood does best with a big summer genre film. And this is a prime example of it. I mean, we make these movies better than anybody. And there's something to be said for just the sheer awe-inspiring enjoyment of a good action movie, and that's what this is.
I agree with you there. I also I like within those first 20-25 minutes. I like the when they find refuge with the family in the apartments in Newark. I thought that was a good sequence, and I liked the outcome of that. I thought was great. I thought that was very touching. It's just a lot of, there are overall a lot of good choices that Mark Forster and everyone made in the movie.
I think so, too. And it's directed in a way that you can tell everything that's going on. Because I watched it again in 2D yesterday. I watched it in 3D the first time around. And unlike Man of Steel, I could tell what was going on in the action sequences. And honestly, I equate that to Robert Richardson's work because I could watch that movie and I could tell what Richardson shot. I mean, some of it was a dead giveaway. The harsh overhead lighting, and a lot of those scenes, the stuff in the hallway with the red lights and everything when they're trying to get out of that building. A lot of it's obvious, and he shot the majority of the film, I believe. So. And then it went to Michael Bay's cinematographer, I think.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. And it needs a star to anchor it. I mean, it's not a great performance by Brad Pitt. It's an appropriate one. A big epic studio movie like that, you need that presence in the center of it.
You need the Brad Pitt from Troy. You need that. I think that's what you need. You need that Brad Pitt. You need, and I think we get that, and more better than Troy, actually. I'll say that. But you do. That's the funny thing. Brad Pitt can do these things where he'll go from the big blockbuster to the supposedly smaller film, but he does deliver. Right? He doesn't get the credit he deserves, but he really does deliver.
Yeah,
I think
the female role is completely underwritten. I would have liked it to have included more moments of like horrific intimacy in it. of what exactly, because the movie is told on an epic scale. So when you get the zombies, you get them in swarms of thousands. You know, I miss what is spoken of late in the film when the wife turned and killed her son. That's spoken of late in the film. The best zombie horror, and even something like The Walking Dead, they portray moments like that, and that really brings home what makes zombieism such a frightening theme.
Right.
The intimacy of it.
Yeah, like
that's not what you get here.
You know, you don't get that. Like in the second one, the 28 Weeks Later, where Robert Carlyle, I think, is watching his wife or whatever become a zombie. I always found that to be just such an intensely disturbing scene in the beginning of that.